I'm glad you have it up there. I always want to just say Museum of Mining, the Western Museum of Mining and Industry, which is a really fun place to visit in person as well. And let me turn it over to Lauren.
All right. Hi, guys. Like Joyce said, my name is Lauren, and I'm the education coordinator here at the Western Museum of Mining and Industry. Also joining us today is our intern. This is Caitlin. She is going to be helping me with switching slides and things, as well as doing some of the projects. We're going to need a partner for some of our projects. If you don't have a partner, you can find a table leg, and that will help you with some of the partner pieces of this. Okay, but that's not going to be a lot of it. All right, so let's get started. Simple machines. So the first question I want to ask you guys is, when you think of machines, what do you think about? You guys can give me a couple of answers.
Machines do work.
Machines do work. Very good. What's maybe an example of a machine?
Well, me and my mom have watched a few videos, if that counts as cheating, but
No, that's okay.
A pulley.
Yeah, a pulley. That is a
stairs
machine.
is actually a machine that makes things stairs.
Yeah.
Stairs are machines. They help you with things. Instead of just climbing up, it's a lot of work.
Yes,
Stairs
very
makes
good.
it a lot easier.
Canyon and Victoria, I can see a hand raised.
An incline plane.
Yeah, an incline plane is one of the simple machines we're going to be learning about. Okay, very good. It seems like you guys did your homework. Oh, Daniel C.
Vacuum.
Say it loud enough.
A vacuum and a sewing machine.
Absolutely, those are machines. Very good.
Someone said a refrigerator.
Yes, refrigerator. Yep. Yeah, so we use machines all the time, right? Oh, I see somebody with his hand raised. Tyler.
Yeah, a magazine printer.
Yeah. Yep, that's a machine. All right. Very good. So machines, at their most basic, are just devices that help us to do work. And the scientific definition of work is when we apply a force to an object and it displaces or moves that object. Energy is our ability to exert that force on an object. And work is represented by the equation work equals force times distance. So when we have work to do, it's always the same amount of work, but we can change the amount of force we're applying or the distance that we are pushing, pulling, lifting, or separating these objects. All right, so that's where simple machines come in. Simple machines are the simplest mechanisms that use mechanical advantage to multiply force. So when we've got a job to do, it might be really hard or even impossible to do it with just our bare hands. So think about if you have like a log to split. Do you rip that log in half with your two bare hands, or do we use a tool? Yes, we use a tool in order to do that. And that tool that we use, an axe, is actually one of the simple machines that we are going to be talking about. So scientists, they measure force in a lot of different ways. One of the ways I have right here is this little scale. And I have this right here. This is a kind of a paperweight. This is made out of lead. This is really, really dense. So I'll put it down.
We can't see your camera.
Oh, sorry. Do you want
me to make it full screen?
Yeah. Oh, all right. Can you guys see me now? Okay, so I've got this little scale right here, and this scale is going to help us to measure force. So I've got this as my little lead paperweights. This is really dense. This is pretty heavy for how tiny it is. So when I hook it up to this scale, I'm going to see how that little indicator, it moves from almost zero. As I lift it, lifting with about 1 pound of force because it's really, really heavy. Put it down and it goes back to 0. Now what we're going to be using to measure a lot of the force in our activities is our Jenga block. Jenga blocks, while they're about the same size, they're a lot less dense. So they hardly even move the scale at all. I'm only using about 3 ounces of force to lift up this Jenga block. So instead of measuring using a scale, we're going to have to measure using our eyes. All right, so we're gonna have to pay really, really close attention to the way that our objects move and interact with our simple machines, okay? Okay, so our first simple machine, it's called an inclined plane. Right. All right, so an inclined plane. So an inclined plane is basically a ramp. So as you can see in our first picture, at our museum, we have what's called an ore cart. This is a really big, heavy metal cart. It's used for hauling rocks around. So it's really, really heavy. And we need to be able to move it into our model mine shaft. And as you can see from the next 2 pictures, that model mine shaft is actually a few inches off of the regular ground. So that ore cart is way too heavy for us to lift up and just put into that the mine shaft. But with the ramp, we can push that mine cart. So the ramp or the inclined plane is helping us to do that work and to go up. So an inclined plane is really just any flat surface that is tilted at an angle, and it helps us to raise and lower things from one point to another. The steepness of that inclined plane also has a great effect on the amount of force that we have to use to move something. So we are going to be getting out our paint stirrer, our books, and our Jenga block for our very first experiment. So, and our right here. All right, we're good. So this is what a ramp looks like. So we're going to be building our own ramps. So I'm going to grab our paint stirrer. We're going to line it up this edge right here to the table. I'm going to scoot this back a little bit so you can see it better. Then we're going to take our Jenga block. I'm going to start at the bottom. So with one finger, push it up to the top. Then we're going to let it slide back down. Right. You guys do that? Goes pretty slowly, right? Back down. Because we've got a lot of distance. So we're substituting our distance, and we've got a lot of distance, so we don't have to use a lot of force to push it up. There's not a lot of force that pulls it back down. Now, if we make the angle of it steeper, eliminating about half of the distance, we've got about half of the paint stick now that we're eliminating. So we're gonna have to use a lot more force to move our Jenga block up, up our inclined plane. Then it comes down much faster. Up and down really, really fast. So you can experiment with all different kinds of heights and angle ramp, and you can see how fast or how slow it goes. So when you think about, you have a really big hill that you need to climb up. If you go straight up that hill, you're going there pretty quickly, right? But you're using a lot of energy. Your muscles are working really, really hard to get up that hill. But if you go in a snake-like pattern up the hill, you're going a much further distance, but you're using a lot less energy to get up that hill. So that's what ramps can do for us. We just have to decide, where do we want the trade-off? Do we want to go with the further distance and work a little bit less hard? Or do we want to just go the really short distance and have to work really hard for a minute? If you had to lift a box up a really steep set of stairs with a ramp, What would you rather use? Does anybody have a anything in the chat? All right, that's okay. We can move on to our next simple machine, which is a wedge. So what a wedge is it is an object that is used to separate an object or other two objects from each other. Can also be used to hold objects in place or to raise objects. So around the museum, we have lots of nails. Nails are wedges. We have a hammer and chisel. That's a wedge. We have an axe. That's what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about how you can't really split a log with your own bare hands, right? We have to use a tool, and that tool is an axe. So an axe, as you apply force, the force is going in one direction, and as it hits that object, it sends the force in two directions. So it sends the object that you're interacting with into two different directions. So another example of a wedge, and the wedge that we are going to be using today are our scissors. Scissors, oh. All right. So scissors are actually a combination of two machines, but we are going to be using them as a wedge because they send things into two different directions. And if you haven't already cut your straw into 3 pieces, that is what we will be using our scissors for, or our wedges for. So if you guys want to go ahead and cut up your straws right now, if you haven't already. If not, maybe you can cut up a piece of paper and just focus on watching how the scissors make that straw piece move in a different direction as you cut. Ready? 2 different directions. All right. That is all that we will be using our wedges for today. Right. So our next simple machine is the screw. So a screw is just an inclined plane that's wrapped around a central axle or rod. So the screws can be used to tighten things, to loosen things, to raise things and lower things. At the museum, we have a really big building. That's the first picture on the left side. And it's got these really, really big screws that hold all the parts of the building into place. A spinny office chair is another good example of a screw because as you twist around in the chair, you can raise yourself or lower yourself. I see some of you guys using screws right now with your chairs. They can also be used to raise and lower anchors, which is that boat picture you guys see at the bottom there. And that is called a simple windlass, actually. And so that is what we will be building today for our example of our screws. So what you guys are going to need to do is get your partner or get a table leg to be your stability point. I've got my Miss Caitlin here. We're going to need our Jenga block, our string, and a popsicle stick. All right, we've got all that. Okay, so I'm going to have Miss Caitlin hold here. I'm going to tie these 2 ends of the string. I'm going to tie them around this block. You can also tape it down if that's easier for you, or if it's going to keep it more stable. All right, how are we doing, guys? We got it here? No, not yet? Okay.
So it looks like you've tied both ends of the string.
Yes,
to your
both
Jenga
ends.
block.
Yep. Both ends, and then Miss Caitlin is holding the point here, so it's making a loop like this. So we got it?
Uh-oh. Maybe hold yours up when it's ready.
Yep, all right, I see you two guys got it. All right, so what we're gonna do is Miss Caitlin is gonna hold it down. She's my point. We're gonna take our popsicle stick and we're gonna put it in between these two loops. See? In between the two strings. And then, without pulling this block towards us, we're gonna start making spins. We're gonna start twisting, twisting, twisting. And so the string is corkscrewing around itself. So we're making a screw right now that's going to help us to move this block towards this center point without us having to pull it and drag it towards us. So you just want to screw, 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 screw. Eventually, whoops, the tension will be enough to start pulling the Jenga block towards you all on its own. Oh. You can see mine is starting to come towards me. There we go. See, I've got all of these corkscrews screwing all over onto itself into these loops. So that brings us closer and closer till we get to this center point right here. Oops. So one of the ways that that can be useful in real life is, let's say that Miss Caitlin is actually a really, really big tree. And so we've wrapped a rope around this big tree and we can pull out this other tinier tree over here. If we use a really big stick or some other big rod, and you just pull it and pull it and pull it and pull it, and eventually this tree will start to come out and it'll get pulled out by its roots. So that's how you can remove a little tree, which you can't do with your bare hands, right? You can't just grab a tree and yank it out. But by using this windlass method, you can. All right, thank you, Caitlin. Okay, our next simple machine is called a lever. So a lever is a beam that is fixed to a point on which it pivots, and that point is called a fulcrum. So the fulcrum is what helps us to do the work. A fulcrum doesn't have to necessarily be located in the middle of the beam. It can be located on one end, on the other. There's lots of different kinds of levers that help us do work. So the very first picture you see is called an oar pick. So you hold onto that handle and you drive it into the ground or into the side of a mine, wherever you're trying to get some ore, if you're trying to get some gold. And so the load or the work that you're doing is on the pick side. That really, really sharp edge is where you're driving it in and you're trying to get that weight out. And so you're putting your force into the handle. And the very center of that oar pick head is where the fulcrum would be. on our next picture is a machine in the museum. And so the whole machine itself would actually be the load or the weight that we're trying to move. The fulcrum is at the very, very bottom of that machine, where those levers that you see are bolted into the machine. And the levers are actually those handles, and that's where you apply your force, is on those handles that you can see there. A seesaw or a teeter-totter is another example of a lever. The fulcrum is that center point on which the teeter-totter goes back and forth. And the two friends on the teeter-totter are actually taking turns being the weight and the force. As you kick off with your feet, you're being the force. So you're sending yourself upwards, you're sending the weight down, and you guys switch off. And seesaws are one of the easiest ways to demonstrate a lever. So that's what we're going to be building today for this simple machine. So you're going to need your Jenga block again. You're going to need your paint stirrer, and you're going to need your 8 pennies. Take a moment to find mine. Oh, and you'll also need your marker as well. Can you grab me a marker? All right, so once you guys have those supplies gathered, go ahead and balance your teeter-totter. We're using the Jenga block as the fulcrum, so that's the point on which it's going to move. Just gotta find, oh, that's not balanced. Somewhere right in the middle point. Then we're gonna add 2 pennies to each side. See if it stays balanced. I have to find a slightly different balancing point. All right, once you have your 2 pennies balanced, I want you to take your marker and mark down where your first balance point is. So just right in the middle, wherever your seesaw is balanced. All right. Okay. Then I'm going to take 2 pennies. I'm going to add them to one side of the seesaw. And it comes off balance, right? Because we're applying more force to this side. So now we have to substitute our force for distance. So what way are we going to move our seesaw in order to rebalance it? All right, do you have your seesaw rebalanced? All right, once it's rebalanced with the 2 more pennies on one side, I'm going to take our marker and we're going to mark our second balance point.
A total of 3 on the one end?
A total of 4 on this end. 2 on this end, 4 on this end.
All right, I think we missed a step. Okay, we'll get caught up.
Okay. All right, so when you've balanced it for that second time, when you've added 2 more pennies, we're going to add 2 more pennies again to that same side that you're adding all the weight to. And it's going to come off balance again, but just find your new balance point. And we're going to mark that down again, and that's going to be our third balance point. Can I see a thumbs up when you guys have found your third balance point? Good? Good? Okay, I see a couple of thumbs up from the thumbs up that I can see. All right, so did you guys notice? Did it move about the same amount each time? Or did we move it a different amount of space?
About the same amount.
About the same amount, right?
About the same.
Yeah, about the same. So that's because this is a ratio. So this ratio is 1-to-1. So every time we add some weight over here, we have to add some distance over here in order to keep them balanced. So for us, 2 pennies equals a little bit less than an inch is what each of these measurements would be. So that would be a little bit less than an inch that we're moving it each time. So every time you add 2 pennies, you would add another inch this way, this way, this way, till eventually you get all the way out here. And it's still going to be totally balanced because you've substituted your force over here for your distance over here to do the same amount of work on each side. So a way that we use levers in real life a lot of the times is to lift or move heavy objects. So if you want to grab one of your books or something else heavy you have around you, I'm going to use this tape dispenser right here. I'm going to start out by having our fulcrum here, and we're going to put our weight over here. I'll give myself a little bit more room. So we're going to have it like this. Try and see. I can't even lift it. I'm going to snap this if I lift it. See? So we've got a lot of distance over here. So that means I have to put a lot of force here to try and move this. So what we need to do, move our fulcrum a lot closer to our load. Does that make it easier or harder for you guys to lift your load?
Easier, yeah.
Easier, right?
Easier.
Look at that. I can lift it right up. So the closer your fulcrum is to the load that you're trying to lift, the easier it is to lift something. So if you're trying to, maybe you have a rock that you want to move, you could stick a stick underneath it, could use another rock as your fulcrum, and you just press down and you can move a big whole rock that you couldn't lift with your bare hands, right? Okay, so we'll move on to our next simple machine, which is the wheel and axle. So a wheel is a circular object and an axle is the midpoint around which it rotates. So axles are typically real points through the wheel, but they can also be invisible or imaginary points. It's just the center point of your circular wheel, essentially. At the museum, we have so many wheels. I don't even know how to capture them all in one slideshow. So I figured I would show you guys 2 of the coolest ones that we have. The first one is called the Corliss steam engine. And that wheel is so big that our whole museum is actually built around it. We didn't haul it into the museum. The whole museum got built around it. And that used to power an entire factory. We also have outside, we have this 2-stage air compressor. That's that other wheel. And I also, this isn't at our museum. This is at an airport. This is how you go through security. And those rolly wheels that you see are actually going to be really similar to the next experiment that we're going to be doing, or the next demonstration. So what you guys are going to need is your Jenga block and your 3 pieces of straw. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. All right, so we've got our 3 pieces of straw here. So one of the ways that wheel and axles help us out a lot is they reduce friction. So friction is what the resistance when 2 objects are rubbing against each other. So first try to run your Jenga block along your desk. It's not hard, but it's not really smooth either. That's because there's friction between the 2. Now, if we place it Here, let me move them so you can see them. I know they're kind of invisible, but if we place our Jenga block on top of our straws, kind of spread out, you can roll it around much easier. It doesn't have all that friction, all of that resistance there. So I can roll it back and forth like this, but if I want to take my block from this side of my desk all the way over to this side of my desk, I can't do it like this, can I? I have to find a way to move my straws so that they can keep carrying my Jenga block. So you're going to have to pick it up, replace it. Just like this. Can you make your Jenga block move from one end of the desk to the other, just using your straws? I'll give you guys a minute to do that, okay? Give me a thumbs up when you've gotten your block from one side to the other. Okay, Canyon.
Is this like moving the stones for the pyramids?
Yes, it is. Caitlin right behind me is an Egyptologist, so that was the first thing she said when we started doing this. All right, we're good. All right, so yes, like Joyce said, that is how they would move the big old stones for the pyramids in Egypt, is they would just roll long things. This is also if you maybe cut down a big old tree in the forest, be easier to than dragging the log behind you. Might be easier to get some more rounded logs like this and roll it through the forest to your destination, right? So we can also use our wheels to change the directions of things really, really easily. So how would you place your wheels to help you move your Jenga block in a circle? Would you place them in this kind of like almost W that I did? Let's see. Nope, that kind of derails it. So how would you move your wheels in order to help your block turn? I'll let you guys do that for a minute. Just give me a thumbs up when you're done experimenting. Okay, Canyon. All right, were we able to figure out how to maybe make it turn a little bit? No? Nope. Uh-oh. All right, so the way that we turn it, so we need to have our straws kind of in this sort of a position. Kind of think about railroad tracks almost. If you turn on a railroad, gotta have an outside and inside corner to help us turn. Does that help? That helps? Okay, great. No, I thought one of them. All right, so we will move on to our very last simple machine. And this one I think is probably the most fun. So pulleys. So pulleys are basically a wheel and axle that have a groove at the top of the wheel that helps you align some sort of cable or rope into the pulley, and it helps you pull to do the work. So we have lots of pulleys around the museum. They help a lot of machines run smoothly, like you can see in those first two pictures. Pulleys can also be used to help people cross things like rivers, like you can see in the very last picture. So we are going to be building our own little pulleys today. So you guys are going to need your wooden bobbins, which are those kind of spools these spools right here. And you're going to need your Jenga block, your string, and your paper clips. So the very first step is going to be undoing your paper clip. Smoothing it out a little bit. But difficult to do. And then you're going to just thread it through your bobbin so that it looks like this. All right. And you want your bobbin to be able to move a little bit, but you also want to bend up these edges so that you can hold it like this. See how the bobbin can still move? Let's go ahead and do that to both of them for right now. All right. Do we have two pulleys? All right, so then we're going to tie one end of the string to our Jenga blocks.
Hang on just a second.
Oh.
Thank you. Little hands take a little longer.
Yeah.
Plus we're gathering up the material. There's just a lag, you know,
Yeah.
to go grab the pieces.
All right, so we should have this, right? One of these. And our Jenga block just tied to some string. All right, so to fully assemble your pulley, I'm going to have to take the string, thread it over this bobbin right here, like this. And you can pull up. And you've made yourself a pulley. Do we have pulleys? Give me a thumbs up when we've got pulleys. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is just one pulley. So this doesn't offer us a ton of mechanical advantage yet, but it offers us some because instead of lifting up, like if this was a really big box that we had to lift up, if you're just lifting it up like normal, you're lifting and you're fighting gravity. But when you're using a pulley, gravity is helping you out because you're pulling down. There's a little bit of help with one pulley, but when you add even more pulleys, we get a lot more help. So this is where having a partner is going to come in a lot of handy. So when we add another pulley to the equation, let's see, I have to unstring it and string it through yours. So we're going to go up and over the first one, and then this one's going to be held down below. We're going to be pulling up this time. Like this. So this helps more because we've got another ratio going on. So this is 2 to 1. So we've got two strings, this one and this one, doing enough work that I'm only pulling what's going to feel like, let's say this is 2 pounds, it's only going to feel like I'm lifting 1 pound. We've got two strings. If I add a third pulley, and this was 3 pounds, it would still feel like I was only lifting 1 pound. If we had 100 pulleys going all the way out and I was lifting up and this was 100 pounds, it would still only feel like I was lifting 1 pound, because these pulleys are sharing the work that we have to do across the ropes. Is everybody working 2 pulleys? Yeah. All right, for our final stage of the pulleys, we're going to be making a pulley like we saw earlier with the people who are pulling that thing across the river, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this end of the string, and we're also going to tie it to the block again. So we're going to have both strings tied to the block like this. Then we're going to tape them down, because otherwise we're going to pull too hard and we're going to pull the strings off of the block. So we're going to have to tape them down. Right, so I've got my other side tied, and I'm going to tape it. Nice. So you should be able to pick up and hold it like this. Can you guys hold it like this? Yes? Okay, nice. All right, so then we're going to get our 2 pulleys. And we're going to, I'm going to separate that a little bit. We're going to lay both ends like this, sorry. So we're going to lay both ends over our pulleys like that. We're going to pull it tight. And then you and your partner can take turns pulling your weight back and forth. So pretend like this desk right here is a river. We have to haul our supplies from one side of the river to the other. This would make it a lot easier than having to construct the whole bridge, right? All right, are we doing it?
Can you put your hand right up to the camera so they can see how you're exactly holding it? Thanks. Oh, so you're holding the,
Yeah, so we're holding the sides so that
okay.
the pulleys can move freely.
I see some horses moving across the gap.
All right, how do we do, guys? Yes, in a circle form. It's like, it is like a clothesline. Yep. All right, were you guys able to do that? Can I see some thumbs up? Okay. All right, good job, guys. So those are just some really, really small scale examples of the 6 simple machines. So simple machines are the basis for every other machine that we have. They're the basis for cars, right? We have wheel and axles with cars. They're the basis for bikes. We've got wheels and axles. We've got pulleys. We've got the pedals, which are like levers. What are some more complex machines that you guys can think of? Can anybody tell me some? And what parts do you guys notice? Yes, Grant?
Some more machines that probably are like that. What are the elevators?
Yeah, that's a pulley system, right?
And then there's these things that there's ski lifts, I think.
Yes, that's a great example. I love it. All right, Melanie and Lawson, I see you guys have your hand up.
How about an airplane?
An airplane? Yeah, for sure. Lots of machinery going on in there. Caden and Tyler?
One of my favorite machines is like an oven because it keeps your food warm.
Yeah, very good. Ovens are definitely good machines.
A train.
Yeah, a train. Got lots of wheels on a train, huh?
Some of those trains can have like hooks on the top and have like ropes and it could go across.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like not a trolley. Is that a trolley with the ropes that go across? Yeah, I think so. Daniel C.
A robot?
Yeah, robots are absolutely machines. Very good. Anybody else?
In the chat, Adeline said a roller coaster.
Ooh, a roller coaster. Yes, definitely a roller coaster. A lawnmower. Yep, that's a good machine. Yeah, absolutely. Those are all great examples of machines. Did you guys have fun? Yes, thumbs up. Oh, good. Oh, I see a tank in the chat too. Yep, tanks are definitely machines. All right, well, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys had a good time learning about simple machines. I will turn it back over to Joy and Barb if they have some closing statements that they want to make. But thank you guys so much for joining me and learning about simple machines.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Lauren. That was really great and so informative. Now I'm going to be looking at all the different machines and thinking of the different components.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you're doing this today. And do you just want to let everybody know where the museum is? And what is your status now? Is it reservation? Is it open?
We are very much open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Masks are optional now. That is our policy. We don't have particularly a capacity. We are located on the very, very north side of the of Springs. We're right across from the Air Force Academy. I believe our address is 225 Northgate Boulevard, if I'm remembering that correctly. But we're very easy to find online at Western Museum of Mining and Industry, or WMMI. Yeah,
So great.
that's how you can find us. We'd love to have you visit.
Okay, thanks again so much. And I did put the website for Summer Adventure in the chat, and just come on into any location at June 1st and you can get started, or you could start at home and come in at your convenience. Okay, it's great to see everybody. Have a great day and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
That was so much fun.
Bye.